Hello, YouTuber boopers. It's Tuesday, so Tuesday. So of course, I'm gonna be sharing their video in the comments below. It's an interesting video. It's not as it's a nice video to watch. That's all I'm gonna tell you. You're gonna have to watch it to see what I'm talking about. Yep. You know, a good friend, YouTube friend on as you probably know if you look at my playlists or whatever on my YouTube homepage, as I mainly subscribe to homesteaders, garden channels, and off-grid type stuff. And one of my favorite channels is um, the Empty Nester. She's now it's Empty Nester Seeds of Love or Seeds of Change. But she just did a recent video about health issues for her husband, and she brought up a comment about Agent Orange. And we all know what Agent Orange is, stuff they used in Vietnam to wipe out the foliage so that they could be able to go after the supposedly enemy hiding underneath of the foliage. But the problem with spraying such a harsh chemical was that it actually destroyed most of the vegetation. It also would run off from the rain, which they get a lot of down there. It would go into the soil deep, and it would also run off into the streams, which then affects all the foliage that lives along the streams. It affects anybody that uses the water along the river for bathing, because now they're swimming in Agent Orange, and they're going to clean their clothes in Agent Orange. And the sailors that were patrolling the riverways and harbors and stuff, they were exposed to the Agent Orange because they would have contact with the water. So here you have some companies, for example, like I don't know, was it Dow, um, company Dow, and they of course probably made millions of selling that chemical. But then the onset is that it has an extreme effect to the society. And so many of us here that are subscribed to for gardening channels, of course, we try to may not be certified organic, but we do our best to be as close to organic as possible. But it's very hard to control that if your neighbor is spraying Agent Orange or something similar to Agent Orange in their yard, and it's running off into the streams, it's affecting the wildlife, and it's affecting the everything. It just affects everything. That's the reality of using pesticides and using harsh chemicals in your yard. You say I can do whatever I want in my yard. It's my yard. I'm gonna do what I want. But they don't really think about the end result. Like up here in the Northeast, the biggest problem is poison sumac and poison ivy. People get very sick from just walking in the woods or walking on a trail and getting exposed to one of those. And so that they'll use something like, the chemical that I'm thinking of is called Roundup. And if you do a Google about comparing Roundup to Agent Orange, you're going to see some interesting comparisons to the two. And it's basically sold everywhere. It's sold from dollar stores to box stores, even your family hardware store that that you think is looking over your shoulder, but the reality is that the only thing really in the market for invasive plant control chemical is Roundup, and people think, oh, but what's the big deal? It's no big deal, but the reality is, it has a poisoning effect on everything because the birds are going to eat the vegetarian that's going to be exposed to the chemical. It's everywhere, and you know, just because we don't buy it doesn't mean that it's not being used, and it doesn't hurt to say something to the store owner or the store manager or sending an email or something to people or just commenting to people if they're looking at it in the store, saying there are alternatives. But what's the alternative? Well, there are probably some natural ones out there. You'd have to do some research about it. But another alternative is using a torch, a propane torch that has a nozzle on a pole that'll put the torch close to the ground. I think 90-degree angle is the recommendation. They have torches that are for that purpose. Um, and you burn it down to the root system so that you kill off all the foliage, and that's what the Agent Orange is doing. It's killing off the foliage. Chances are the Agent Orange or the Roundup isn't going to get into the root system because it's really going after the foliage. So, um, you know, granted, we're taking responsibility by not using the stuff, but the next step is to encourage people to use something different. Um, I think it was the Mother Earth fair that was over on the West Coast was talking about using, a propane torch to burn weeds as an alternative to any kind of chemical because it not only does it take the foliage all the way down to the root system, but it also puts that carbon back into the soil so that it can, be utilized appropriately. You see stuff like that going on. It doesn't hurt to say something that says, hey, when I walk into a local hardware store up in the city, the first thing you see walking in the door is a whole shelf full of Roundup. And I messaged them on Facebook and said, why do you stock this? And they said, well, we don't have anything to replace it with. Well, that's not an answer. The reason they stock it is because they can make money on it. It isn't because they haven't looked for an alternative. So that's my two pieces for today. So I am going to put a link down below for So Tuesday, and I wish everybody has a pleasant day. Yes, I'm strange. I'm in a strange mood today.